Heya Cryptozens. Tonight's show. Community reacts to Terra Luna fork proposal. Kwon summoned to Parliament. U.S. Congressional agency reports on UST crash. It's 10 p.m. Pacific time. The date is May 17th, 2022. Welcome back to the Crypto Overnighter. I'm your host, Nick. The cover model for this podcast is Tex, and together we take a nightly look at the crypto, NFT, and metaverse space and the industry that surrounds it. So take a minute, go ahead and subscribe to the podcast now, because we're here at 10 p.m. every single night to bring you the crypto news analysis that you're going to need to start your day. And keep in mind, nothing in this show should ever be considered financial advice. Burn or fork? Those are the two choices the Terra community has in front of them. Burn or fork. Now, the majority of the Terra community is certainly signaling which way they think things should go. Is it the right way to go? I couldn't tell you. Here's what I can tell you, though. On Tuesday, Kwon tweeted out no less than 17 companies that are going to stay on board. SCV Security, Aperture Finance, Random Earth, Valkyrie Protocol, they all seem to hitch their wagons to the Terra blockchain star. Between yesterday and today, Kwon has been busy drumming up support for his Terra Luna forking proposal. Okay, so we just talked about this last night. So let's have a quick review. Kwon's proposal 2.0 is this. New blockchain called Terra. Symbol would still be Luna. A hard cap of 1 billion Luna. That would mean the old blockchain would still be in existence. It would become Terra Classic. The symbol would be LUNC, C for Classic. So that blockchain would live on, and there will not be a successor to Terra USD. Instead, whatever amount of Terra Classic you were holding when things fell apart would determine the next part, because the next part is the airdrop, and they would be airdropping you Terra based on how much Luna and UST you were holding when, based on a series of screenshots. That's how 70% of Terra would be dispersed. 25% would go to a community pool, and 5% would go to essential developers. And so it was the proposal Kwon is putting forth, something of an adaptation of a previous proposal, the Luna Go Forward proposal. And that proposal was put forth by the community, the Terra Builder Alliance specifically. Now, the Terra Builder Alliance is all in on Kwon's proposal. They put out a tweet around noon today, and it said, quote, Terra 2.0, gears in motion. We are hoping to have a proposal out that works for builders and the community later today. So I guess the next part wasn't much of a surprise, at least not to anyone who was reading that thread, because most of the responses that I were reading were full of no, burn Luna, and we support Luna, not fork. Another example, someone wrote, quote, listen to your community. No one wants this. Burn is your only way out of this. So clearly a divisive topic, except maybe no. Because while reading the thread might give you the impression there's this huge rift in the Lunatics community, that's not quite true. Actually, they seem to be quite united, and united specifically against the idea of forking Luna. Because in an interesting turn of events, a preliminary poll shows just where the community is on this question, and 90% of them hate it. 90% of the 2,000-ish votes were against Kwon's suggestion of a hard fork. Instead, they're pushing an alternative burning mechanism designed to make Luna deflationary. Now, I'm not sure how much life that one has. 6.5 trillion, and a lot of people only got their tokens after Luna cratered. This is an important part of the conversation, because a lot of the disagreement comes from how compensation would be handed out. Clearly, this is not a case of calling Terra Labs out in this aspect, because they're not getting any crypto under their own proposal. That said, it seems like this scheme is going to be a non-starter. One user wrote, quote, I will support the fork only after someone from the team explains why we can't implement a burn. The majority of the community wants that and is willing to stay and support the project. And I'm missing why they're being ignored. Till then, it's a no. Binance's CEO, CZ, weighed in. He kind of expressed similar feelings. And further, he doesn't see a lasting value in forking the chain. He said, quote, "This won't work. Forking does not give the new fork any value. That's wishful thinking. One cannot void all the transactions after an old snapshot, both on-chain and off-chain exchanges." Now, one thing I want you to remember, this is a preliminary poll, and it's not validated in any way. You don't have to be hodling Luna to vote. You don't have to be hodling US Terra to vote. You can just log on to the Terra forum and vote. So let's not read too much into this. Just keep things in perspective. That said, it does give you an idea of the uphill battle the forking proponents are looking at. Because sure, this is only an informal vote, but it's backed up by similar results in a Twitter poll. 93% of that poll's respondents were in favor of a burn over a fork. I'm going to guess that they're going to fork anyway. There's so much weight and there's so much interest in going that direction. That said, there's a lot of people who just won't move. And frankly, they don't have to. If they're comfortable, if they're happy risking and investing their money in Terra Classic, they should be allowed to do so. It works for Ethereum and Ethereum Classic. Now, looking at the markets, it's not a horrible day, actually. Now, looking at the numbers, we've got the global crypto market cap at $1.3 trillion. That was $1.28 trillion yesterday. It's almost up 1% in 24. The top 5 cryptos by market cap are Bitcoin up 0.88%, Ethereum up 1.1%, Tether, USDC, and Binance Coin up 1.28%. Now, it should surprise no one that the world's governments are paying attention to what happened with Luna. And the subject has come up a number of times in the US government alone. We'll talk about that in a bit. There was a Congressional research service, and they were looking at the crash and what happened. But South Korea, they also want answers. And while they use words like invite and request, in this case, the tone seems clear. The South Korean Conservative Party, they want a parliamentary hearing. So here's where things stand. According to a local news report, each of the different Korean exchanges responded to the Terra Luna Black Swan event differently. And so it came to pass that the National Assembly's Political Affairs Committee, they have summoned Kwon for a parliamentary hearing regarding the issue. They want to have a chat. Their representative, Yoo Chung-hyun, said, quote, there is a part that raises questions about the behavior of exchanges during the crash. CoinOne, Corbit, GoPax all stopped trading on May 10th. BitThumb on May 11th stopped trading daily. But Upbit did not stop trading until May 13th. Now, he's coming at things from a consumer protection point of view. From his standpoint, the longer legislation is delayed, the more investors will find themselves losing money. And they'll be losing money because without effective legislation, authorities won't be able to protect them. He said, quote, "We should bring related exchange officials, including Terra CEO Kwon to the National Assembly to hold a hearing on the cause of the situation and measures to protect investors." In addition, there are reports of local Korean financial regulators launching, quote, emergency inspections. They're looking into local crypto exchanges to enhance investor protection. Korea's Financial Services Commission and the Financial Supervisory Service have started asking exchanges for information on UST and Luna-linked transactions. They want the trading volumes and the number of relevant investors. They also want the details on what the exchanges did to mitigate damage from the crash and what they think caused the crash to begin with. Now, this might seem like a bit of a bad time for legal stuff to be happening because, well, they lost their legal team. Mark Goldich, Lawrence Florio, Noah Axler, they were all lawyers working for Terra Labs, and they're not anymore, at least not according to their LinkedIn profiles. Goldich was general counsel, Florio was the chief corporate counsel, and Axler was the chief litigation and regulatory counsel. Speaking on the subject, a spokesperson said, quote, "During the past week has been challenging for Terraform Labs, and a small number of team members resigned in recent days. The vast majority of team members remain steadfastly committed to carrying out the project's mission. Terra is more than UST, with an incredibly passionate community and a clear vision on how to rebuild. Our focus is now on executing our plan to revive the Terra ecosystem. The global NFT market cap is up over $10.66 billion. Sales volume is up 0.53 in 24 hours. According to CoinMarketCap, the top 5 NFT collections by sales volume are Other Deed, Bored Apes, Azuki, Clonex, and Moonbirds. Now, keep in mind, some of these collections have very volatile prices, so do your own research. True to form, a number of U.S. politicians are expressing concern about what they see as the dangers presented by cryptocurrencies. Stablecoins in particular. And I get it, because stablecoins are an important part of the DeFi ecosystem. Now, the DeFi ecosystem has a lot of economists and central bankers very concerned. And I get it. A lot of them couldn't tell you the difference between a collateral stablecoin and an algorithmic stablecoin. Senator Toomey from Pennsylvania, to his credit, he knew the difference and why it's important. And there are still algorithmic stablecoins running today. USN, although that one's having trouble. USDD, the one that Justin Sun just stood up like a couple weeks ago. The Congressional Research Service, or CRS, is a legislative agency. It supports the U.S. Congress. And it published a report that contains a rundown on algorithmic stablecoins, and it looks at what they see as important factors in the Terra USD crash. They described it as like a run-like scenario. And I can see how they got there. I mean, it sure looked what a run would look like. You know, according to the CRS, a run situation happens when stable coins, the users aren't confident there are enough reserves to back up the dollar-for-dollar exchange on that stablecoin. The next key point that they said was a significant number of investors pulled their money out at the same time. And that had a domino effect that brought down the entire ecosystem. CRS pointed out that the traditional finance space is protected by regulations and other measures. FDIC is an example. They're all designed to provide confidence in the reserves and give people less of a reason for concern. That said, and this is a continuing theme, the CRS said the stablecoin industry is not, quote, adequately regulated. They said there may be gaps in the regulatory frameworks. This was an issue they brought up in a previous report. And further, they highlighted existing policy proposals. These proposals might well end up restricting the very assets stablecoins would use for backing. And they also established reporting requirements. This is kind of counter to Janet Yellen, of all people. The Treasury Secretary has gone on the record as saying stablecoins like Tether and Terra USD are no threat to U.S. economic stability, whether they get depegged or not. And that's going to do it for us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us, because I really do appreciate that. If you enjoyed tonight's show, like, comment, and subscribe. Give us a review, because that really helps other people find their way to this podcast. If you have questions or comments, reach out and let us know. The email address is nick@cryptoovernighter.com. That's nick@cryptoovernighter.com. And check out my other podcast, Crypto in 5 Minutes. We have 41 educational podcasts, 5 minutes to explain one concept in crypto. And as always, may peace